Open your task manager right now. Sort by memory. Before you touch a spreadsheet, before you compile a single line, your chat app, the one showing you a column of text messages, is sitting on almost half a gigabyte of RAM. That's more memory than a professional workstation shipped with in 2005. The kind of machine that ran Photoshop, ran After Effects, ran a whole creative studio at once. Your chat app is using all of it to render text. And here's the part nobody tells you. It isn't one browser. Slack is open. So is Discord, and VS Code, and Teams, and Notion. Each one of those is running its own complete separate copy of the same browser engine, the same engine, 5 times for 5 windows. And your operating system, the thing that's smart enough to share almost everything else, is doing nothing to stop it. This is the anatomy of a resource heist that happens while your machine sits there doing nothing. To understand why your RAM is on fire, you have to understand the promise that lit the match. And it was a good promise. Slack, Discord, VS Code, WhatsApp, Notion, Spotify, some of the most used software on Earth was built on it. So this isn't a story about bad engineers. It's a story about a trade that made sense right up until it didn't. Around 2013, a developer at GitHub hit a wall every software team hits. You want to ship a desktop app. But desktop isn't one place. It's Windows, macOS, and Linux. 3 different worlds, 3 different languages just for drawing a button. Write it 3 times, maintain it 3 times, fix every bug 3 times. So they asked a sharper question. What's the one interface that already runs identically on every operating system on the planet? What's already been ported everywhere, tested everywhere, hardened by billions of dollars of engineering? The web browser. Every OS has one. HTML and CSS render the same everywhere. So the idea was elegant. Take the browser's rendering engine, strip off the address bar and the tabs, and ship that as your app window. Write your app once, in the languages web developers already speak, and it runs everywhere. That's Electron. And to be clear, it worked. The developer promise was real. 1 code base, 3 platforms, ship on Friday. But look at the cost buried inside the convenience. Electron doesn't borrow the browser your OS already has. It doesn't reach out to Chrome or Edge or Safari sitting right there on your disk. It bundles its own. A private, full copy of Chromium, the same engine that powers Google Chrome, packed inside every single app. So when you install 5 Electron apps, you didn't install 5 apps. You installed 5 entire web browsers, and your operating system has no idea they're related. Which brings us to the crime scene. Let's do the autopsy. This is one Electron app, cracked open, and it's not one process. It's a colony. Every Electron app carries 3 heavyweight systems, all running at once. 1, Chromium, the full rendering engine, Blink, the exact code that draws every Chrome tab. 2, V8, Google's JavaScript engine, a just-in-time compiler turning your code into machine instructions on the fly, holding megabytes of compiled code and a garbage collected heap. 3, Node.js, a second complete JavaScript runtime, bundled in so the app can reach your files and your network. Read that again. Every Electron app ships with 2 independent JavaScript engines, the browsers and nodes, stapled together to show you a list of messages, and none of it is shared. That's the whole heist. RSS, resident set size, is the real memory each process is physically holding in your RAM right now. Not a promise, not a reservation. Occupied. Run this and you'll watch 5 idle chat apps quietly sitting on well over a gigabyte between them, doing nothing but existing. Now, the natural objection. Operating systems are smart. If I open the same program twice, the OS shares its code in memory instead of loading it twice. It's called shared library deduplication, and it's happening constantly, invisibly, all day long. So why won't it deduplicate 5 copies of Chromium? Because they're not the same file. Slack ships whatever Chromium build it froze last release cycle. Discord froze a different one, months apart. VS Code froze a third, patched its own way. 3 numbers that look almost identical to you. But to a byte-for-byte deduplication check, they might as well be 3 completely different programs. Deduplication needs identical files. These are strangers wearing the same uniform. So the machine loads all of it. 5 Blink engines, 5 V8s, 5 node runtimes, 5 garbage collectors, each waking up on its own schedule, each poking at memory, each keeping your CPU from ever truly falling asleep, which on a laptop means fans, heat, and battery draining while you're not even looking at the screen. Step back and name what's really happening here, because it's a pattern much bigger than Electron. Every layer of abstraction is a trade. You give up efficiency to buy convenience. And often that trade is worth it. Nobody wants to handwrite assembly to send a text. But the trade is never free. Someone always pays the bill. With Electron, the developer's convenience is enormous, and it's real. One codebase, 3 platforms, a huge hiring pool. But the efficiency you're spending to buy that doesn't come out of the developer's pocket. It comes out of yours, your RAM, your CPU cycles, your battery, your fans, your electricity. MacroLens runs on Patreon, not sponsors. Links are below. This is the Great Abstraction Tax, and it's regressive. It hits the weakest hardware the hardest. On a maxed out developer machine with 64 gigabytes of RAM, 5 bundled browsers are a rounding error. On the 4-year-old laptop a student actually owns, those same 5 browsers are the difference between a machine that works and a machine that swaps to disk and stutters every time you switch windows. And here's the quiet cruelty. That laptop isn't slow because it's old. Its silicon is perfectly capable. It runs native code beautifully. It's slow because software decided that shipping faster mattered more than respecting the hardware you already paid for. Your machine didn't age. It was aged on purpose by a decision made in someone else's build pipeline. So why do we accept this? The answer everyone reaches for is a myth, and it's worth killing directly. The argument goes like this. Native development is too expensive. You'd need a Windows team, a Mac OS team, a Linux team, each fluent in a different toolkit. That talent is rare and pricey. Electron folds all 3 into web developers who are everywhere. Scarcity of native skill forces the browser. That was true in 2013. It is not true now. And the thing that broke the myth is a language that didn't even ship a stable version until 2015, Rust. Here's what the myth misses. The cross-platform problem and the browser engine problem are 2 different problems that Electron welded together. You needed one UI codebase that runs everywhere. Fine. But you never needed a browser to get that. You needed a rendering layer that hides the 3 operating systems from your code. The browser was just the tool lying around at the time. It was never the requirement. So the new generation of frameworks does something surgical. It splits the UI layer clean away from the browser engine. Tauri does it the pragmatic way. It uses the WebView that's already installed in your operating system. WebView 2 on Windows, WK WebView on macOS, instead of bundling its own. One shared engine the OS maintains, patches, and deduplicates for free. Your app just borrows it. And then there are the true natives. Zed, the code editor, is built on a Rust UI framework called GPUI that talks straight to your GPU. No browser anywhere in the stack. Slint and Iced are Rust toolkits that render real native interfaces the same way. Dioxys gives React developers the smoothest migration path of the bunch, though in desktop mode it still leans on a system web view underneath, so it's not fully native like Zed or Slint. The saving there comes from not bundling its own Chromium, not from getting rid of the web view. And Zig, the newer systems language, pushes the same philosophy even harder. No hidden runtime, no garbage collector you didn't ask for. Every byte accounted for. The talent argument is dead. Rust's community gets bigger and more motivated every year, and these frameworks let one team ship one codebase to every platform, the exact promise Electron made, without mailing a whole browser to every user. Let's make this concrete. Same app, a chat client, built 2 ways. Watch the numbers, because this is the entire argument in 2 columns. On disk, the Electron build ships north of 150 megabytes because the browser rides along inside it. The Tauri build of the same app, because it borrows the system web view, ships as a binary you measure in single-digit megabytes. Same features, same screen. One is 15, 20 times smaller before it even opens. At runtime, sitting idle, the Electron window is holding its hundreds of megabytes of resident memory, its private engine breathing in the background. The native build, running the same conversation on screen, uses a fraction of that. No second browser, no bundled node, no redundant V8. There's the app and the operating system and almost nothing in between. That's it. No 150 megabyte engine stowed in the payload. The OS provides the rendering surface. Rust provides the logic. Compiled straight to machine code, your CPU runs with no translator sitting in the middle. Now multiply it out. Slack alone has tens of millions of daily users. Give each of them back a few hundred megabytes of RAM and a slice of CPU that never had to run a redundant garbage collector. Now multiply that across every Electron app, every machine, every idle hour. The wasted memory runs into petabytes. The wasted electricity into power plants. And the laptops thrown out in 2027, not because they broke, but because they can't run a chat app anymore, those get measured in tons. That's the billion-dollar idle. Not a bug, not a crash, a slow, invisible tax collected while nothing is happening, paid by every user in hardware they already own. And I want to be fair because the easy version of this video is a villain story. Greedy companies torching your RAM. That's not honest. Every one of those Electron decisions was made by an engineer under a deadline, choosing to ship something over shipping nothing, and shipping software is genuinely hard. I've made that exact trade. Convenience now, cost later, cost paid by someone I'd never meet. The tax isn't evil, it's just invisible. And invisible costs are the ones nobody's ever held accountable for. Here's the real lesson, and it's bigger than Electron. Every abstraction is a loan. It hands you speed today and quietly bills your efficiency tomorrow. The question is never, is this convenient? It's always convenient for whom and who pays. For a decade, the answer was convenient for the developer, paid by the user, and the user never got an invoice. The native renaissance isn't nostalgia for hard languages. It's someone finally reading the receipt and refusing to keep paying it. Because once you start pulling that thread, once you ask who actually paid for a decade of software convenience, the RAM is just the beginning. The bloat made specific people, at specific companies, extraordinarily rich, and that bill can be itemized line by line. That's the next autopsy. Who got rich off software bloat? The receipt is itemized. The engine was the how. Next, we follow the money.